Okay, we'll get started. We'd like to welcome tournament host Davis Love III here to the 16th RSM Classic. Davis, 16 years, if we can get you to talk a little bit about this event and what it has meant to this area during that time.
Well, we obviously celebrated 15 last year and now on to our next 15, and very exciting to kick it off yesterday with our first Pro-Am. And, we just go back over the impact. I say 50 million, but our accounting partners, RSM, say 48 million to charity, and in our first 15 years is amazing. The tour sent us some stats recently that, we're number one in charity dollars in the fall and number two in our peer group of similar sized tournaments on the tour, which I guess we're the smallest probably, or maybe Bermuda is. But, we have great success here, and obviously with our partner RSM and Sea Island and all our friends here supporting us, our foundation and the RSM Classic has done a lot and grown a lot, so we're excited to kick off this 16th week.
All right, and my favorite question every year is, what's the state of your game coming into the week?
Well, we could talk about that for a long time. It's better. Obviously, I've had a long couple of years with surgeries and injuries and sitting out. Drew Love one time figured out how far I'd walked on the PGA Tour, and now I'd like him to figure out the last 10 years how many tournaments I've missed, how much I've sat out. But I would guess 5 years of the last 10 I've not been able to play. So I haven't passed Mark Brooks on the all-time starts list because I've been out so much, but I'm feeling better about my game. I've been playing really since early September, back practicing and playing. I played 2 Champions Tour events last month, and kind of gradually feel like I'm getting better every week. But unfortunately, the last couple years in the RSM, I felt like I was getting better, and then things happened, and I hurt myself again. So I don't want to jinx the weather, I don't want to jinx my game, but things are looking up for Thursday, Friday, I think.
All right, good to hear. We'll start with Gary with questions.
I think you're okay on the weather.
Yeah, the weather is looking really, really good. Around here, the weather's good when people start talking about the sand gnats. Like 70 and calm is when the sand gnats come out. So that's what we're looking at a lot this week is really good weather. So it's nice to have a good forecast. And the last 4 or 5 days here have just been unbelievable.
Davis, given the changes that are coming on the PGA Tour, reduced field sizes, 100 exempt players instead of 125, do you think what do you think about the long-term future of this event, given what's coming? And any concerns at all about this tournament being a part of the same way it's been for the first 15 years?
Well, we've gone through a lot of changes in the fall. Obviously, all the fall events have always been wondering, what's next. We've been wraparound. We've been end of the year, beginning of the year, trying to drive the purses up, and all kinds of things have happened in our 16 years, 17 years of talking about being in the fall. But I was very excited a few weeks ago when the tour announced a tournament in Asheville in the fall. That means, they're committed to the fall, and it maybe not going anywhere for a while. And, I've spent a little bit of time with Brian Rolap, and I've spent a lot of time with tour staff. We've been down at TPC Sawgrass a lot working, and the energy and the excitement from the staff has been really good, and I'm excited about the future. So, we have a new commitment from RSM, and we're rolling right along. And just as Tim Fincham challenged me after a couple years here, we're just trying to get better with our event every year and fill the gap. And I've had a whole bunch of people come up to me and talk about this player or that player playing for their card or playing for the top 60 or moving up the list. So there's a lot of fun things to talk about and play for this week. And everybody that's here, the 156, are all excited to play in this tournament and excited about the fall.
And as a follow-up to that, you said Tim challenged you to get better, to show improvement. That famously, Augusta National never sits on their model. They are always looking for ways to get better. How do you think in year 16 you're better than you were in year maybe 4 or 5?
I think we're always better in what we do for the guests, the fans that come out, for our corporate partners. We always do a little bit. I just walked through the club trailers over there, and there's a little coffee bar, and I don't know who that's for, but I'm gonna go get a coffee. But little things that we improve. We're always, we have a RSM. We always brag that they're the best sponsor on the PGA Tour, and we're not saying that just to be nice. They're an incredible partner, and we sit down after the tournament and we debrief, and everybody says what went well and things we could do better. But little things, whether it's food or hospitality or player services or whatever we can do to make the experience for everybody better. And our team, our office team, has grown. We have a few fresh young faces, and people are moving up, and our team and our foundation just gets better and better, and the tournament just gets a little bit bigger and a little bit better. We're not gonna become the Players Championship big in this little town, but we continue to grow and continue to expand and offer new. We're digital tickets this year. There's a whole lot of things that the tour pushes us and RSM pushes us to do, and we just get better and better.
Building on what you said with RSM, a lot of tournaments that have turnover. They'll find a new sponsor, but what's been the secret to keeping RSM all these years?
Well, the reason that they came here in the first place, when Zach Johnson introduced us to the RSM leadership team and said, hey, these guys might be a potential sponsor for the tournament here, they realized the opportunity to come to Sea Island Resort. They realized, working with our foundation, they can make an impact. And there's a lot of turnover in sponsors, but we became partners and we became friends. I was just in the cottage on the range last night with leadership of RSM. It wasn't Zach Johnson was there and Chesson Hadley and JT Poston. It wasn't an outing that we were doing with RSM last night. It was hanging out with our friends and enjoying the tournament and enjoying the camaraderie. We've truly become partners and friends with them. And one time when the tour was talking about replacing sponsors, I said, we don't want a different sponsor. We want to keep this sponsor happy forever. And that's always been our goal and always been RSM's goal. They love coming to Sea Island. It's become part of their culture. So it's all about relationships, and I've seen that on tour. The ones that last a long time is you build into the relationship early on and continue to push each other to get better.
One of the principal reasons for the changes that are coming next year was supposedly pace of play. How has pace of play changed during the time you've been out here?
I was on the board of the tour 5 times, and a lot of meetings. Pace of play has always been a question, and some of the great, I think it was Wade Cagle, maybe one of our great older rules officials, said, we have nowhere to go when we make the turn on Thursday, Friday. We're not going to speed up. We're going to save 15 minutes. So one of the great things about, smaller fields, which we've been talking about for years and years and years, is you have a place to go when you make the turn on Thursday, Friday if you're playing less players. We play a big field here, but we split them into 2 golf courses, so our Pro-Am and our tournament rounds are fast here. This is the model. That's why 80 or 90 or 100 at the Masters works really well, because there's not a whole lot of guys on the golf course. So I think pace of play with a few players is an issue, and it's not an issue with a lot of players. It gets a lot of publicity because there's not much to complain about on the PGA Tour. So when guys do complain, it gets a lot of attention, but it's never going to go away. There's going to be fast players and slow players, and until get field size right, there really is nowhere to go. Sunday twosomes off one tee is always nice.
Do you think this will be the solution, the reductions that are going to happen?
I promise you, 10 years from now, somebody will complain about slow play. It might be Wednesday, it might be Friday, but I'm one of them. We're spoiled tour players. We're always going to find something that we want better. Some of my friends here complain about the parking all the time here. They're not doing it mean. They just can't find a parking spot. So There's no perfect solution as they're all sitting in the card room in the old locker room over here. We can go walk in there and what's the solution? And they said we just need to spread out the tee times and have a place to go when we make the turn. And there is, and we've said it for 30 or 40 years I've been out here. The players have to respect their other players and pick up the pace. And I think there's very few guys that don't try. It's hard to tell a guy you're slow in the group, but if you're respecting the rules and respecting your other players, you'll play a little quicker and make it fun for everybody.
All right, Paul.
Davis, last year, Luke Clanton contended here. We've seen a lot of young players kind of burst out on the scene, then maybe go through growing pains. Tom Kim, other guys are kind of going through it right now. I'm just wondering what you remember back when you started playing and also just observing a lot of young players. Like, they come out with a lot of success, and then a lot of times, they experience a lull before jumping back up, and just kind of that process of learning and growing, what you see and how they adjust.
There's always a lot of ups and downs in a career, and I've had my ups and downs, good years, bad years when I was starting off, but it's so competitive out here. You come out fresh and young and excited, and you have some quick success, and then that breeds a lot of other pressures. Success is sometimes hard to take. It takes a lot of your time, and you look at a guy that just wins, and all of a sudden all these opportunities happen. I was lucky to have guys like Vinny Giles around me that kept me grounded and focused, and working on your golf game, and everything else will take care of itself. But the demands on your time and the demands on your life when you become successful make it even harder to compete. But we've been lucky here. We get a lot of exciting stories, first-time winners, and guys like Maverick that they hit it, they finally get over the hump and then take off. So Aberg, guys like that. We've had a lot of first-timers. But again, I think these golf courses now suit that too. Somebody comes in hot, and, we've had all kinds of different style of players win here. I think the young guys here that are playing well, they stand out.
All right, let's go Rex, Gary, and then Kathy.
Davis, you mentioned the new numbers this year, 100 versus 125, and all the other numbers that factor into it. I know it's just a number, but are you sensing a little bit more sense of urgency from players because you don't have that flexibility anymore? If you're not inside the top 100, you're probably going to struggle to get starts.
Well, yeah, there's always been the area where you're not sure if you're going to get in, whether it's 125 or 150 and all the numbers. But I've felt like for a long time that a smaller number of cards, 125, 150, 125, 100, 75, some smaller number was the way to go. And but we're always going to have that access problem. We focus on, our exemptions, especially when we were at the start of the season. We focus on our exemptions, giving guys a chance to play because the young guys, there was some years the rookies on tour are only getting 16 or 17 or 18 starts. That's tough to compete. So we're always looking at that. And then what we look at as board members was the Korn Ferry, the other opportunities if you're not in the top 100 or 125, making sure those opportunities are still great and there's another way to get back to the tour. So I think both the players and the board now are focused on making as many tournaments as meaningful as they can be, no matter what they are. If you're an elevated, if you're, a regular tournament, or if you're a fall event, or if you're a Korn Ferry event, making them all more important. Even the Champions Tour, it was great to see Brian Rolap come spend an afternoon at Jim Furyk's tournament and actually witness it and see what it was all about and say, how can we improve this for the older guys too?
Gary?
There's total pure speculation on your part, but do you have any kind of a handle or any kind of thoughts on how much Champions Tour golf Tiger will play?
I don't have any idea. I'm pushing for a mandatory cart rule on the Champions Tour so that we have to ride so that everybody, including me, feels comfortable riding. I feel bad when when I ride. I walked 18 holes yesterday. I'm like, I could have just Champions Tour. I could have ridden half of this round. But yeah, I'm hoping he'll play. Same thing with Zach Johnson. You know, Zach's about to turn 50. Hoping that these guys come out and play. It is a lot of fun. You know, it's obviously, you know, different than playing, you know, Tiger could play major championships and probably be competitive if he could, you know, if he could get healthy. So I'm hoping he'll play, and I hope I see him in Hawaii in January. That would be a nice start to the year.
All right, take a couple more, Kathy.
Did you know when you had the last meeting about what the fall tournaments were going to be, that there was going to be this new emphasis on the top 100? Because I remember you saying, we're in a great place. We like the position of our tournament. I mean, this is a tournament that decides whether or not people have their tour cards for next year. So this is kind of it.
Yeah, well, we've always been in the fall, whether we were early in the fall at one point, and you know, then it became wraparound and FedEx points and Masters exemption. We always try to put the positive spin on our event. So yes, those stories make it fun. Something more than just, you know, 156 guys playing to win the RSM Classic. There's a whole bunch of other stories. So yes, we always try to, and the tour does a great job of saying, here, look, here's your storylines that are going to happen this week. There's a lot going on. You know, Lee's going to feed you a lot of that stuff. But yeah, we knew changes were coming. We just didn't know exactly what they were going to be.
And this is for a friend of mine who's still driving, trying to get here. He wondered whether or not you have any funny anecdotes or situations that you've seen Scotty Scheffler in. I'm not saying break your hand on the wine glass, but anything that you happen to see.
Not much. I've been around him on a few teams, obviously. The Stricker Ryder Cup team in Whistling Straits, I remember sitting with a bunch of guys that were already on the team trying to decide who the picks were going to be, and his teammates said, "Oh no, we got to have Scotty Scheffler on the team. He's about to break out." So if you go back and look from Ryder Cup Whistling Straits, Scotty Scheffler's been pretty good. So the players knew he was coming. My biggest memory from Scotty at the President's Cup in 22 when he was on the team was he was making a lot of birdies, but he was frustrated not getting points, and we had to pull 3 captain carts up to the putting green and aim them at a hole so he could practice his putting in the dark on Saturday night to get ready for Sunday. So Scotty is a great player that never gives in, and yeah, the only time he hadn't played well is when he got arrested and then couldn't do the dishes. Only times he's slowed down since Whistling Straits.
All right, we'll wrap right here on the left.
Hey, Davis. Walk us through the course conditions with the warm and dry weather we've had the past few weeks.
I've seen it in the greens, even from last week to playing Seaside yesterday. The moisture is like gone out of the greens, and we were commenting yesterday. I can't believe they're going to dig these up. They're so pure. Next summer they're going to be rebuilt, but hopefully the fairways will continue to dry up. Seaside, that's why it's getting a renovation, is drainage and older grasses in the fairways. That's always been a challenge on a few holes like 5 and 10, just always seem to be wet. So we're liking that it's drying up. I think in 15 years of playing here, I've only played it a couple times where the ball would actually really run down the fairway. I don't know if we'll get to that, but I know Dylan Stafford and his crew are doing a great job, and the members and my friends that have played recently said it's never been in better condition. So I think the Bermuda grass and this time of year, if it cools off and the wind blows and the sun's out, the Seaside greens can get pretty scary.
All right, well, Davis, as always, we appreciate your time.
All right,
Thanks for
thank
having
you all
us
for
this week.
being here. We appreciate it.